What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So, Michigan State football improves to 3-0 with a 41-24 win at home on Saturday against Youngstown State. Now, a little bit of an overreaction, in my opinion, from the fan base after this game. And a lot of that stems from opening this game. The line for this game opened up, I think, at 23.5? Somewhere around there. I think it might have got to 27.5 at some point, or on some sports book somewhere. But at the end of the day, you only win this game by 17, but it wasn't only winning the game by 17. It was the fact that you gave up 24 points against a team that we talked about in Youngstown State that was definitely going to be more than likely the least talented team that you play on your schedule. So the fans were expecting a bigger blowout game here for Michigan State, and they did not see it. This was a game that we were hoping, at least something I mentioned pregame, was a game that, by midway to the third quarter, at least going into the fourth quarter, that, you can get your guys out. You can get Aiden Childs out. You can get Nick Marsh, Amari Kelly, Jack Velling, Mekhi Frazier, and whatnot out of the game. Get those main guys out of the game, and like to see Alessio Milojevic get into a rhythm and, see what we got in some other guys. Evan Boyd, we haven't seen a lot of him in terms of targets, and see what other things you have on the roster. Braylon Collier, was really excited to possibly see him. That's something that just did not happen in this game. So we're going to talk about it, but first, before we do jump in, if you could, just hit that like and subscribe button down there. We'll have more Michigan State football content on the channel, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. All right, so jumping right in. We'll start with Youngstown State here. We talked about up and down about their quarterback, Bo Brungard, that he was going to be the key for Youngstown State, and he is by far their best player on offense, leading them. Obviously, he's their quarterback, but he also leads them in rushing too, and it was by quite a wide margin. And actually, on Saturday, Michigan State was able to shut off one part of his offensive attack. But the bad thing was, we saw him, almost, I think it was like 1.5, 2 times the amount of rushing yards that he had in terms of passing yards. Passing yards to rushing yards. He had 1.5 times, 2 times more rushing yards than passing yards, I believe it was, coming into Saturday's game. Well, on Saturday, that switch kind of flipped for Bo Brungard against this Michigan State defense. He went 24 for 34 through the air, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Now, on the ground for him, very inefficient, 14 carries for 17 yards. Their leading rusher was Jaden Gilbert, 7 carries, 472 yards, and a touchdown, and he had a long of 66 yards as well. Now, this is something that Michigan State, even dating back to last year, they were strong against the run game. And we've seen that so far to start this year as well. But it has been that secondary and that pass defense that has been a concern for Michigan State. And a lot of that has to do with not being able to get to the quarterback. They were able to get to the quarterback twice in this game against Youngstown State, but still, through the air, Max Tomasak, 7 receptions, 78 yards. Jaden Gilbert had 4 catches for 58 yards as well. They had their 2 touchdowns through the air as well. So just there's still a lot that we're looking at with this Michigan State secondary that needs to continue to improve. I mean, this just can't happen, and the fact of the matter is, it's still too early to say or to write off the secondary unit. Not doing that. This was also the first game that Nikai Martinez came back at safety for Michigan State. But listen, this isn't something that I am writing off the position group as a whole, just something that we need to see improve over the next couple weeks, obviously, with Nikai Martinez now coming back into the lineup and healthy now for the first time this season after missing the first 2 weeks. Hopefully that secondary can kind of start to form and we see some improvements over the next couple weeks, and we will definitely need it if we're going to want to start getting some wins here in the Big Ten as the Big Ten season here gets going. But overall on defense, you look at the offensive line for Michigan State. They didn't allow any sacks. Obviously, yes, it's still Youngstown State defense. You would expect to allow 0 to maybe 1 or 2 sacks. So you expect that, and Michigan State's offensive line did that. But we'll use this to switch over to Michigan State. And Aiden Childs thought he played a pretty good game overall. 22 for 29, 270 yards, had a touchdown on the day, and he did have his first interception of the season, but it was on a weird tipped ball at the line of scrimmage. So, yes, it's still an interception, but it's not one of the ones that we seen last year where he was putting the ball into harm's way or throwing into double, triple coverage, and it got intercepted. It was just a ball that was tipped at the line of scrimmage and, got intercepted. So you just have to tip your cap to the Youngstown State defender, Cameron Cunningham, on that one, who got the interception. So overall, still a really solid start. Feel a lot better about Aiden Childs through the first 3 games this year than we did after the first 3 games last year, even with that big Maryland game in there last year. But rushing the ball, definitely something that's got to improve. Listen, the positive here, Aiden Childs, 8 carries for 76 yards. But Aiden cannot continue to be your leading rusher. I mean, Elijah Toliver, especially at the end of the game, he got a touchdown, 4 carries for 37 yards. That's 9.3 yards a carry. Brandon Tullis had 7 carries for 31 yards and a touchdown. Mekhi Frazier, who's been your lead back through the first 3 games of the season, he had 12 carries and 22 yards. That's 1.8 yards per carry, a touchdown on the day as well. That can't happen. Rodney Bullard had 1 rush for 8 yards and a touchdown as well. So 4 rushing touchdowns on the night, and that's what we've said. It's been a pleasant surprise is the offensive line run blocking this year and the running game as a whole. Has it been like a top 10, 15 unit or rushing attack in college football? No, but it's compared to what we've seen the last couple years. Aside from the Kenneth Walker year, this has been a drastic improvement for Michigan State to start this year. Not saying it was horrible on Saturday, but a lot of that was aided by Aiden Childs, helping make up that 5.3 yards per carry average for Michigan State. But the thing that still just sticks off the board, which we knew coming into the year, Michigan State's receiving corps is absolutely elite, especially when they are all on the same page as Aiden Childs, which, in my opinion, their top 3 pass catchers were on the same page with Aiden Childs in this one. And Nick Marsh, I don't think he received a catch in the second half. As I said, if you watched the preview, I was at my wedding on Saturday, so I didn't watch it live. Went back with wedding night, early in the morning, should I say, of Sunday morning, watching the highlights, and then on Sunday, last night, recording this on Monday. When I got back Sunday, was watching, the full game. I don't think Nick Marsh, was a little banged up. We'll get a little more into that, but just in the first half, 6 catches, 94 yards. That's 15.7, per catch. Jack Velling on target with him. 6 catches for 70 yards. Omari Kelly, 4 catches, 49 yards. And then Michael Masunis, he seemed to be really reliable out of that tight end room, especially as Jack Velling's getting going this season. 1 catch for 28 yards and a touchdown. I mean, we knew Nick Marsh. We knew Nick Marsh was elite. We knew that coming into this year. Omari Kelly, we heard about him all year, and we've seen both of those guys live up to their expectations here through the first 3 weeks. Now with Jack Velling starting to get going, it seems like that is a positive for Michigan State. As I did say, though, it seems like Nick Marsh, he was a little banged up during the game. At Monday's press conference, Jonathan Smith did say, he's a little banged up. His decision will be made at the end of the week, and I believe Mekhi Frazier also was banged up in this one, and his decision will be made at the end of the week, whether he'll play on Saturday or not. Some other notable injuries while we're still talking about the offense. Luka Vincic on the offensive line. Sounds like Jonathan Smith is saying it's a longer-term injury, could be out for the year. Then Alante Brown, who has really made his waves in special teams this year, had the 2 incredible punt returns in the Boston College game. Seems like he could be out for quite a while as well. So wishing all of them speedy recovery, and the ones that could possibly play this week, hope they get rest and are able to give it a go Saturday night in Los Angeles, because we will definitely need them. But we switch it over to the defensive side for Michigan State. Wayne Matthews was the defensive player of the game for Michigan State in this one, at 10 tackles total. Jordan Hall only had 4 tackles on the night, but he did have 1 sack and a tackle for loss on the night. The only other sack for Michigan State was Anilu Lafalele, who I think he's had a pretty good start to the year off the edge. As we said, we just need to see more from Michigan State in terms of getting to the quarterback. They're doing okay with tackles for loss. They had 6 tackles for loss on the game against Youngstown State. But the sack number, have to get there, have to get to the quarterback. Again, I know, as we said coming in, Bo Brungard, what is a shifty quarterback who can get out and can run really well. So we figured that he would give this Michigan State defense some fits, but definitely got to continue. Seems like we keep going back to it. Have to get to the quarterback. That's on the defensive side. That is one of the key factors in what's going to determine what this season looks like for Michigan State. And then, as we said, Nikai Martinez back first game action this year. And then also for Michigan State on defense, we had our Marion Smith with an interception. But when you look at the team stats for Michigan State, 6 for 10 overall on third down and 1 for 2 on fourth down. Those are solid numbers. 5.3 yards per rush. That number is okay. It needs to be a little bit on the higher side, though. And only 2 penalties for 10 yards. That's huge. Controlled the time of possession just slightly. 30 minutes and 6 seconds on the night for Michigan State. But anyway, look, at the end of the day, was it a clean, perfect game? No. Jonathan Smith said as much. Came out a little banged up from this game with a couple players. So hoping a speedy recovery for them because it gets real starting Saturday. But at the end of the day, look, you're 3-0. You need 3 more wins out of the next 9 to get to a bowl game. And it starts on Saturday in Los Angeles against USC. But anyway, that'll do it for this one. We'll be back with the preview for the USC game. But thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.